Recently, the Department of Homeland Security decided to take the assault on the freedom of the press to a new level when they announced that they begin keeping a database of hundreds of thousands of journalists, bloggers, and other media influencers so they can track these people for reasons that still aren't clear to anybody. This is a clear assault on the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of the press and an attack on the independence of journalists in the United States. If reporters feel that government might be looking over their shoulder, it's going to be a chilling effect on the already suffering state of American media. For more on this, I'm joined by RT correspondent Brigitte Santos. Brigitte, tell us what kind of information the Department of Homeland Security is trying to obtain, and who are they targeting? What's going on here?
Mike, the Department of Homeland Security says it plans to track and monitor any and all media coverage related to the Department of Homeland Security or related to any particular events that it feels like monitoring. Now, they're going to be looking at over 290,000 global news sources across all mediums, including print, broadcast, blogs, you name it. They're also going to be targeting, monitoring, and tracking individual industry professionals, which includes editors, journalists, correspondents, bloggers, and, as you said, influencers, in order to determine their sentiment and attitudes based on their output. Now, the reason that they want to do this is so that they can share this information, if they want to, with local, federal, state, tribal, and private partners, although it's unclear what those partners are going to be using this information for, Mike.
Well, you know, Brigitte, it seemed like there would be massive pushback by even the corporate media. As dysfunctional as the corporate media is, you would think that there would be massive pushback from corporate media. What kind of chilling effect could this have on media in the United States going forward? I mean, to have the government, to have Big Brother looking over your shoulder and saying, well, you're saying something we really don't like. Media has no idea. What are you using it for? Why are you taking this information? Who's following me on the blog? Who's following the stories that I'm doing? Corporate media is part of the problem in a lot of ways. People don't understand. Bezos, for example. I mean, here you got Washington, you know, owns Washington Post. We're giving him billions of dollars under federal contracts to spy on everybody. And if you don't think that the same thing is happening with Facebook or any of these other entities that are now really part of corporate media, they may say, no, we're independent, we're social media, we're really not corporate media. That's nonsense. And so all of a sudden, we're finding even corporate media jumping in and saying, well, we're corporate media, but I'm not sure we like this blogger, I'm not sure we like this independent press, I'm not sure we like this story, so, you know, it's okay if you go after them. This seems like it could launch a massive constitutional crisis as it chips away at freedom of the press. I don't see any, how else can you see this, Brigitte?
I mean, absolutely. You've got it correct there. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, I find it very crazy that they had tweeted one of their press secretaries, quote, "Despite what some reporters suggest, this is nothing more than the standard practice of monitoring current events in the media. Any suggestion otherwise is fit for tinfoil hat wearing black helicopter conspiracy theorists." But that's absolutely a bizarre thing to tweet, and it doesn't take a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist to be worried about the government expanding its mass surveillance tools, which is exactly what this is doing here, Mike. So it's very troubling. This is absolutely going to curb free speech and freedom of the press. And in the United States, we already have state media. We just don't call it that. I don't know how many outlets you turn on TV and you see on the news every day some former administration official as a regular contributor promoting the government's official line, Mike.
The Homeland Security thing already began to spin out of control over the last several years. But this new iteration is, you know, you got to ask yourself, what's going to happen in investigative journalism? If Homeland Security is looking over everyone's shoulder, how do you do an investigative piece on Homeland Security when you're inching closer and closer to having a state-controlled media that actually props up, you know, in a sense props up a corrupt administration or promotes endless wars or, you know, has corporate America just right at the center of everything that we read, everything we see. Right now, if you take this problem with Homeland Security being the new propaganda agency, you add to that you already in the United States only have four entities, four corporate entities that control all of the media. Wow, I mean, this is a train wreck for journalism in the U.S. You've got this entity now with the Homeland Security. We don't know what in the world they're doing. We don't know what they're doing with the information, why they may be watching this program for whatever reason, or what they might do with that information. So you've got this blend now that really kind of should scare the bejesus out of everybody that understands what the First Amendment's all about. What's your take?
Yeah, and journalists are going to be very worried because this is going to be a searchable database that's going to have individual journalists and other media professionals' personal information on it, like their addresses, their phone numbers, their employment details. It's incredibly terrifying for somebody who's on the other side, supposed to be watching the watchers here. But unfortunately, the Department of Homeland Security has decided that its best interests lie in controlling the media, which I guess in turn is protecting the government because none of their secrets will be getting out now.